think I'm on. Yeah, I don't have mute. I love it. I'm seeing people are coming in. I can't see who it is, but hello. And I think last time what somebody told me, well, we're in webinar mode here with this Zoom, that I don't know why, but chat, I believe, is disabled, but you can go into the Q&A part if you have anything you want me to say, and I'll just wait a few more minutes, waiting for people to come in. Maybe what I can start doing is, for those of you who don't have past experience with me, I've been a professional astrologer for a few decades, and I've been doing this full time. A big piece of passion for me with utilizing astrology is not necessarily in the static aspect, translation, looking at just the natal chart. It's looking at how we as beings are interfacing with time in time. And that anybody who's at a reading with me knows that. I remember, back, super far back, when I started doing this, professionally, there's which, by the way, this is all good. If you have a person who will go through systematically every planet in your chart, that's great. But when I tried to do that at the beginning, it was so hard to not talk about a particular planet in a chart without talking about time and how what was going on with a person at the time. So I guess that's kind of how I'm introducing myself to those of you who don't know me, that the way I practice astrology is really looking at where we are in time, where we are in the present, sort of taking the temperature of, a state of being of where a person is at the time. How did we get there? So there's some time traveling. We're going back in time to sort of gather intel, which is what you can do when layering in time onto the static natal chart. And when I say static, what I mean by that is we all have a natal chart, meaning it's that blueprint of that moment you were born, the moment you came into this world and started breathing, and you commenced this incarnation. So that chart stays with you your entire life. As a matter of fact, it's really fascinating how potent that chart is, that we can look at people who've already passed away, who have some sort of important body of work. And that chart, that beingness, we see, we can put current transits, even though the person passed away a long time ago, it's still being transited. That's the thing with time. We have all these different, how do I say that? Choices. When, many people are born, at the same time, and they have a similar blueprint, we could say. But then time comes in, and different what are called transits. Transit just means literally a planet in motion and making contact with one of your personal planets. And so you may have many people who have that transit on their planets because they have a similar chart. But this is where it's so beautiful. It's sort of this divide and conquer on a creation level, where we each are able to make a choice about that transit. So yes, there is a level of I'll just go ahead and use the word fate, where there just seem to be things fated, like you just can't ignore some of the math that can be involved. However, what's not taken away from us is free will of how we respond to certain fated circumstances that might come into our life. And this particular, I'm calling it a class, really. This, even though this is a free webinar, probably if you signed up for this, you saw that I'm about to go into the predictions course. So there's a 7 module, but 6-week course. One of the modules is going to be pre-recorded and uploaded, but we're going to do 6 weeks of basically time traveling. How do we learn how to time travel? And that's why it's called predictions. And this is really the first class. What I've done as a practice, and every time that I've taught astrology, once people seem to have like the basics, just the the language around, like, I know what the houses are, I know what signs and planets are, basically, and aspects. The first practice always I have a person do is track the moon in their chart. And so that's what we're working with today, is tracking the moon. And the moon is that body that is the quickest, as far, our ascendant, our time, the hours of the day, the signs. You have all 12 signs rise, culminate, come to the top, set, go underneath. It's this circular, beautiful cycle that happens. But the body part, the bodies that are doing this orbital cycle, the moon is that quickest body. And so that's the thing, as we look at the moon will go through your entire chart once a month. That means it goes through each house once a month, a house. And so for those of you that don't know astrology, that's okay. You're going to get some material after this. I should just tell you that right now. So we'll be sending you tonight or tomorrow a couple PDFs that will have literally what all the houses are in your chart, and the topics of each house, a PDF on all the placements of the moon as it transits each sign, so all 12 signs. And then the thing I had so much fun with was putting together a Google Calendar that you will get for the next 2 months, so you don't have to figure this out. You can just put it in your calendar and it will tell you the precise day and moment that the moon is changing into another sign. And so you'll be able to track this very, very easily. I'm going to show you in just a few minutes here how to access your chart if you don't already have a chart. And you can really start to take notes over these next 2 months. And so back to that concept of time, of just this looping. So moving in and out, up and down, is a way we can kind of think about it. That, again, the moon does this, all 12 signs, translation, all 12 houses, all 12 areas of your life we get once a month. That means also the moon crosses each and every one of your planets once a month. So if you have an area of life, for those of you who have been studying and you're at that point of study, looking at your chart and going, wow, I have an empty house. Does that mean nothing is there? This is a beginning of being able to see how you access that house, because at the very least, the moon visits that house every month. So for a couple days, you get these energies from the moon and you get to see how that impacts you. So the moon once a month. The sun, as we kind of go out in this, the sun spends 1 month basically in each house, in each area of life. So what happens is there's a little more time to think about it, because the sun is shining light. That's what the sun does. The sun illuminates an area of life. This is, by the way, where again, I get very passionate and excited to share astrology, because it's one of these things, one of these basic practices of being able to self-resource. Because if we focus on that area of life, when the sun is there, we have more help. If we're trying to accomplish certain things that are counter or in aversion to or not related to the house that has illumination, it's like that's a lot of times where we can feel like we're hitting our head against a brick wall. And this is so simple, but it's so profound. So this, not only the sun, obviously the sun's a big one because it is that illumination, but even Venus, the planet of love, will be moving through, giving her life force to an area of your chart, each area, each house, once a month. Same with Mercury, generally speaking. Mercury and Venus move a bit faster than the sun, but with their retrograde cycles, we're just going to round up for the sake of simplicity right now. Mars, that heated, energized planet, that planet will spend 2 months in each house, and then we just could keep going. Then the next one is Jupiter. Jupiter spends 1 full year in an area of life. Saturn spends 2.5 to 3 years in an area of life. Uranus spends 7 years in an area of life. Neptune about 14 years in an area of life, and Pluto, I'm averaging it out. It's usually around 20. We're just gonna, so we can see this is from all the way out all that time, as we bring those slower planets that spend more time. And that's why we feel those transits more intensely, because the planet is not moving off of an area of life, or say a certain planet. We dial it all the way back into that quick spiral of the moon, where we almost don't know like what hit us until we haven't quite processed it. And this is why we can also look at the moon being the sort of the ruler of the territory of the subconscious. This is where we can really see that, because it's moving in time, but it only spends like a few hours on a degree on a planet, spends a couple days in two and a third, to if we average it out exactly, in a sign, meaning an area of life, a certain house. So we don't necessarily realize that we have these sort of, we could almost say, triggers or responses, or like we didn't realize we have this time of the month where we might feel a little low or down, or things tend to bother us, and we didn't know it until we started tracking the moon, which is why I gave you in the calendar, you're going to have 2 months, not just 1 month, so it's like, what? Okay, I need another revolution to really, work with this. So the first thing that I'll do here, if I don't have any questions, I'm just going to go straight into showing you how to access your chart and how to set it up. What I'm going to tell you right now is, for the sake of simplicity, if you are new to this, I'm going to show you how to create a whole sign house chart. If you've been around the block and you want to play with time, you will probably be sophisticated enough in your knowledge to be able to track when the moon crosses the degree of the house cusp, which, those of you who know me know I use Coke. I use Coke and whole sign for different reasons, but those are my primary houses. But I'm going to show you how to do this whole sign, because it'll be much easier and cleaner. Okay, so this is our first step. And again, if anybody has questions, I believe you can just go right in here into the question chart. Please feel free. It's so funny not knowing who's in here. But hi, everybody. Okay, where is this? So, okay, I hope everybody can see this. So the website, this is my good friend Morgan Lindsay turned me onto this website because astro.com is a great website, especially if you want to sharpen your astrological tools. They do many things, but it's not as visually pleasing or easy to see. So I love this website. It's astro-charts.com. So I'm going to go through, I think, so it goes right to here. So I'm just going to, I don't know, I'm just going to make up a name. Here, we'll get Betty. We'll just say Betty Jo. We're just going to make this up. Let's see what city. I don't know. I'll just say San Diego. It's easy. San Diego, California. That's easy. Let's give Betty Jo a strong chart. We're gonna say she's Sag. Let's just say 10. We'll do December 12th. It's funny, I didn't think of doing this beforehand. Let's give her that, and we will say, I'm just making this up. AM, let's give her an AM chart. Okay, so you will get this chart. This is your birth chart. Now, this is what I want you to do, because most websites, if you go in to put, to get a free chart, they're going to give you a chart set to Placidus. And I know for those of you who don't know astrology, you're like, what are you even talking about? You don't have to worry about that. You're just going to take this and we're going to go to settings. And we click on houses, and hopefully you can see all this. So in the chart settings, you click houses, and it gives you a choice of houses, there we go. And so it gives you the choice of Placidus, Koch, or whole sign. So we're going to go whole sign. So here we go. So now this is this chart. Hold on. I don't think it did it. I didn't apply. Here we go. Well, heck, I don't know why it's not doing it, but it should. Oh, no, we did. This is what's called a whole sign house chart. So what you're going to be looking at when you're looking at your chart, it's really nice because we see that they even have the signs spelled out for you, so you don't have to translate glyphs. So I mean, this is important. And for those of you who have astrological knowledge, you can on your own go ahead and fine tune. Like if Betty Jo were a real person, when the moon is in Cancer, when the moon hits Cancer, she would want to take a look at the beginning when the moon hits Jupiter. But again, you don't need to do all the complication. We're just going to track the moon as it goes through each house. So you could see the number right here: first house, second house, third house, fourth, fifth, sixth, all the way around to 12. So that's the order. So the moon moves and all the planets move. They're going to go in this direction. They're going to go around counterclockwise. And so what you will do when you see in your Google Calendar, moon moved into Aries, you're going to look at where Aries is in your chart. So Aries for Betty Jo is her third house. For you, it might be the 8th house. And that will, then we're going to go through all the houses and show you exactly what are those energies. And what would be a really good practice that I would suggest everybody to do is to journal and be able to write this down, like as you go through each house. Okay, so there's how to put together your chart. And I don't see any questions. If anybody has any questions about this, go ahead and put it in the Q&A. Okay, I don't see anything. So now, what we'll do is go through the house topics. And as we do this, I'll just say before I bring the houses up, and you'll get this PDF. I was just going to sit here and talk to you, but I'll try to make it easy and go through the PDF I made. But there are a couple sort of sticky houses that, like I said, if you feel a little down, there's a reason. And like these areas where we sometimes, again, feel not as stable. We could say everybody has that place. And again, because the moon moves so quickly, we don't get that chance to understand or solve the problem. You know what I mean? Because when an energy passes through quickly, by the next day, let's say, or the next hour, it's like, oh, the feeling's gone. So we didn't investigate why maybe we were feeling that way. Of course, I'm saying this in a very general way. But again, this is part of that threading of the weaving through our chart that kind of gives us that, shows us our blind spots. This was a big deal for me when I did this, the first time I did this. It was one of those super mind-blowing moments. And ironically, it wasn't even at the very beginning of my study. I'd already been a bit through, and I have like a really sticky opposition in my chart. It's like a lions, tigers, and bears. And so each time I didn't realize, like, I just had these 2 times of the month that I tried to place responsibilities on hormonal fluctuations, but it actually turned out to be astrological fluctuations. And when I was able to see, oh, this is when my mind goes into these places, and I would sometimes act on some of my impulses to say things and do things. And I caused a lot of trouble in my life until I realized, holy moly, this is every time the moon, it's triggering the undigested aspects of those transits, of those planets. And so once I got it, it's kind of like that concept of when you can name it, you can erase it. And so I would know that energy was coming in, and then it came to be. And again, we have once a month, we get to work with this energy. I mean, you could just really even do a self-illumination practice just using the moon, let alone everything else that, astrology has to offer. In fact, I suggest just starting with the moon, because again, you see those parts that kind of have been a little bit hidden from you that are more responsive, not reasoned, responsive, feel now, rationalize later, those areas, because that's what the moon, I can't believe I haven't said that yet. So the moon, like, what is the moon? The moon is that part that we could say it is our emotional nature, our subconscious promptings. It's the beginning of our life. It's that part that we were connected to our original, the parenting, the original nurturing, like where your actual natal chart is, tells you a big story about how you like to be nurtured, or what nurturing was absent. Like, we can see a lot of those things. And guess what the moon in the sky does? It joins your natal moon once a month. So again, and there's a name for it. You can run a chart for it. It's called a lunar return, which I'll probably, the last class of this course, coming up will be solar returns, and maybe I'll slip lunar returns in there too if you really want to like dial in with yourself. But the point is that once you start to see, this is why I'm responsive, you're able to actually get into those areas of your life. And maybe it's planetary stuff, maybe it's a house, a topic of life that just triggers you. And again, it'll probably be, there's certain areas, we'll see in everybody. You can have any sign on the cusp of any house. Just, I know this is a little bit confusing because we have 12 signs, we have 12 houses, 12 signs, 12 areas of life. They're not the same. They are different things. And so it's like one colors the other. So the house is the house. It's actually the only thing that is super stable. I'll say it's like the structure. It's the structure, and time is what moves. And it's kind of like what is that? Musical chairs. It's very musical chairs where you have the music going and everybody's walking around. The chairs are like the houses. And then the music stops and everybody stops in that moment. Well, that's like your chair. A person could land in any one of the chairs every time you stop the music. So the houses are really important to sort of understand. And again, like the dial moving, the signs are moving around. So you could have any sign in any house. I might have just said that. So anyways, that's just kind of, you don't have to really completely understand this unless you already understand astrology, then this may make total sense. But what you will do is you're just going to track, like I said, the calendar you get. I wrote it without glyphs. I wrote it, the words out. Moon moves into this sign this time. It'll be set at that time. And so you know that the moon is in that sign all the way, and it'll be about 2.5 days until you see moon in next sign. So it'll be moon in Aries. And then it's there until your calendar tells you moon in Taurus. Then you move to the next house and you're going to focus on that area of life. You're going to take notes and journal about how you feel while the moon is in those houses. And it may be, like I said, houses that, have nothing in them, that it's like, you'll find that like the beginner brain looked and said, I don't have anything in that house. Oh my gosh. I'm like, I don't have anything in my seventh. This is the biggest one. I don't have anything in my seventh. Does that mean I'll never have a relationship? It's like, not at all. What it might mean, you see the moon slip through the seventh and there's no blocks. There's nothing in there to block it. So other planets that move through there too, because again, the moon is just like our micro starting point. Each planet does this, revolves around our chart. Uranus is the last planet that if we live to be 84, that will make the full revolution around. But empty houses, you'll see, whoa, this is like a non-blocked area. So we can look at it that way. And then you might have like, when the moon is crossing, say, your Saturn, if you want to go that far and look at the planets, or Mars, it's like, oh, I'm feeling a little insecure or blocked or angry or irritated, And so this is the other thing, that if you tend to have these cyclical fights, this, of course, is not coming from a practice or anything. Like I'm dealing with couples and doing, observing that, couples getting into like heated fights around like, and then we had a few good days and then we really got into it. That you look at that like, oh, you just need to like hold back, write down what is coming up. And then you might investigate in your own chart and see, oh, real simply, oh my gosh, it's this area of my life that this is what triggers it. I'm going to write down what I want to say. And when the moon goes into that next sign, if you feel like you still need to communicate whatever it was that was coming up, you can communicate it. But chances are this was a subconscious, you know, that was generating from you. So I'm all about self-discovery, like self-responsibility. It's self-discovery. To me, it is the most empowering thing to see where our blind spots are and where the saboteur of our own life. And I say that with so much love because we all do this. And again, the moon is the first place that you can sort of discover this. Okay, so now I'm going to share screen and show you. You will get this. This here, let's widen this. So hopefully you can, if you cannot see the PDF I just put up, go ahead and put it in the question section. But I'm hoping you can see this. So here we are. Here are our 12 areas of life. The beauty of astrology is that you have everything that's going to come up in the human condition, in the human experience, will be able to be found in this. Okay, here is a yay. Oh, I'm so happy you're there. Yay. Thank you. Thank you for telling me. So I'm not blind here. Thank you so much. Okay, perfect. So again, we have every single area of life covered. So again, I keep repeating this, but it's to kind of just drill it into your head that this doesn't have to be super hard. The moon is going to cross again each and every area. And so you could see we have a lot. Sometimes a house will have many things in it. That's a thing, the layering. And it isn't always going to be that every single area of this part of your life is activated. It might just be one thing one month. It might be another thing another month, depending on if you have planets in here. So it's wherever we're looking, like if we're looking for short trips, we go to the third house. But short trips are also where our brothers and sisters are. This is where our siblings are. This is where our primary education. We have a lot of things in here. So just don't get too confused. But just, you know, really focus and read and see about these things. So first house, let's just start with the first house. This is the most you. And actually what I want to do, this is funny, I'm going to go to the 12th house. I'm going to start with the last house before I go to the first house. And simply because this right here, I'm going straight to the good stuff here as far as timing. The 12th house tends to be that area where we can sabotage ourselves and where we can feel the most loss, where we can feel the most floaty, the most disconnected, the most not right. And the 12th, even though okay, I'll just read this and tell you what this is. You know, the 12th house, it is the subconscious mind. It's the self-sabotage. This is where we can sabotage ourselves, because what we're supposed to be doing in the 12th is have more of a retreat. We're taking our hands off the wheel. It's a little bit of that breath before we go back into our lives. So this transition is usually one of the biggest, most marked transits that I speculate you will feel. Like this will be the one you go, some of these feel a little subtle, but this one I felt. So even if you have nothing in your 12th, we tend to, even just at the very basic, feel fatigued, have lower energy. We feel the least ourselves. when we're in the 12th, when the moon is transiting the 12th. And then the minute, so now we'll go into the first is the most in our body, in ourself that we feel. So this is a really vital house. In fact, astrologically speaking, it's the strongest house. It literally represents the moment of your birth because, you know, if we're doing whole sign chart, you will see ASC, and what that represents is ascendant, and it's going to fall here in the first house. It's the ascendant is literally that point at which you took a body. That's when you came from cosmic forces and you said yes to this life. It's like, okay, I'm here. But that imprints everything. And the first house sets the wheel, right? It sets everything. So it's super important, but it is the most vital. It's you. So this is the most you. So it's also a really good time to, it's a good time for, you know, being selfish, doing the things you want to do, starting a new habit. We usually have the most vitality when the moon is transiting our first house. So yes, individuality, it's just us, identity, our image, literally what we look like, because it's our actual physical body. Another thing to do, like if you're trying to begin a new, say a new physical regimen or diet, something that involves your body, pick when the moon crosses your first house. Once a month, you're going to get that opportunity to kind of reboot yourself. So this is a fresh reboot energy when we're in the first. Okay. Second house, this is a big one too. And, you know, some of these are really intense. I'm just realizing because this page, those of you who've taken my Astrology Foundation courses, you already have this piece of PDF. And so I'm really, this is more depth than probably you need, but some people want more. So don't get too crazy. I'm just, as I'm looking at it, like my face just goes right to, you know, greed as the road to hell. Like that's a pretty intense thing to say. And the reason why I put it in here is that it's money, straight up. This is your money. This is also how you feel about yourself, how well you value yourself. What do you value? What is important to you? But straight up, it's also your stuff. It's your things. It's things you can tangibly hold in your hand. It's so issues around stuff or insecure about stuff or your finances, you might feel that. Or it's like, okay, I want to launch something. I need to make more money, or I'm making money decisions. You know, we look at when the moon is in the second house as one, you know, an opportunity might come up. You're like, whoa, the moon is in my second house. So it's like priming your consciousness to be open to those topics. So again, money. I like the word resources, because it's not just money, you know, resource. It's the things that, it's the stuff you need to live in a human body. Just be really simple. It is also your talents, your gifts. So again, you may have a talent you're not utilizing or maximizing. This is a really good time when the moon's going through the second house. I'm just going to give a scenario that, say your partner has Scorpio on their second house cusp and the moon is in Scorpio. So that would mean when the moon is in Scorpio, it will be in your partner's second house, and you're kind of tracking that. That might not be the time to bring up money topics. So this doesn't just work for yourself. This works for, you could put your mate or the people, significant people in your life, you know, and look at their chart and know, ooh, okay, this isn't a good time to bring this topic up. They're probably not going to be open to talking about money because Scorpio intensifies things. Okay. Third house. This is the house of lower education. Lower education just means like the information we need. Like right now, this moment, we're doing a third house. This is third house. Who knows? Some of you may have the moon in your third house right now. Those of you who are getting it and comprehending this, that would be this. Because it's getting the, like, what's the information I need before I'm doing like bigger things. We'll get to that when we get to ninth house, what's opposite. But this is also siblings. So we see, oh, we have things going on with our siblings. I am really upset with myself that it doesn't say neighborhood. This is really important. So you're listening to me now on your own, and maybe I'll have time to even go add that in. Actually, I can do that. I want you to think of neighborhoods and your neighbors, because that's such a transient thing. The moon is moving quickly that we have a little either kerfuffle with our neighbors or our neighborhood, or a really bonding, super juicy thing that happens. But neighbors are a topic of third house. Fourth house, this is your literally family. It's your home. When the moon is moving through your fourth house, sorry, I have to go retrograde a little bit. I also wanted to say third house. When the moon is going through the third house, this is like communication. I really didn't bring that up. It's communication, writing the text, doing the email, like I need to do something, like get information out. This would be a time that you would write those texts and just get the information out. Or you get some important message. It's like, wow, the moon's in my third house. I need to pay attention to this. Don't be reactive, just absorb it. And then I go into the fourth because this is how it's going to work. Month after month, you've already lived this cycle over and over and over and over and over and over again. So you already know this. Every one of you already knows everything that's in here. We're just illuminating it and becoming conscious of it. Okay. So then from that third house, we go into the fourth house, which has more of a retreat. It is our safe space. This is our home, or buying property. If we want to buy other property, but it's our family. It's that family environment. It's our parents. It's stuff around that. So if you do have a trigger, like your mom triggers you, I'm just picking that. It could be parents, but the mom, like in the moon is in the fourth. The moon in the fourth, mom triggering you at that time is just trying to bring to light, instead of you being reactive, it's trying to help you deal with it. That's the other thing, that as the moon goes through, we predict it. We can go, oh, I might be a little spicy during this time, but it removes the fear. It removes the reactive energy, so we can actually get down to healing these areas of life. So mom might send you something and you're gonna wait to respond, or you're gonna put boundaries up. You're gonna do fourth house kind of things. This is again your private self. It's most inner self, like your primary nurturer. Usually it's the mom, but of course, like how many people have the father was more the nurturer? There actually are a lot of people. When it says end of life, end of all matters, of course, this isn't so much of a practice of the moon traversing the houses. This is a bigger sort of thing. It's sort of like that mother. We come from the mother, and then we go back into the ground. We just this is like, that's why it can be end of life, but don't think about that. That's not something you need to really focus on. Okay. Fifth house. This is a fun house. When the moon is in your fifth, this is when you force yourself to go out if you're not feeling social, or you just do a little bit of interaction. This is really a strong time to not take yourself seriously, not take the people seriously around you. Fifth house is super creative. It is children. This is where we get pregnant. So say, you're trying to find your cycle, but like, I really want to get pregnant. Start tracking the moon in your chart and you'll find, give your fifth house a chance. Just do what you do that gets you pregnant a lot when the moon for a couple days when the moon's in the fifth and see what happens. This, no joke. I can't tell you how many people I've suggested do this and they got pregnant. So that's why it's children, because this is literally where that creation. So this is again a fun house. It's pleasure, creativity, gambling. It is the house of gambling. So it is like, I mean, I don't have people ask me those questions so much anymore. This is where I date myself as an astrologer. That, I mean, I can't tell you how many people, when I worked at Mystical Dragon, whatever, 25 years ago, like, we're going to the casinos. Like, when do I go? What's a good day? What's a good hour? I will tell you, gambling is a good practice to sharpen your timing techniques, because it's transient and in the moment. So you're really timing in minutes, which is so fun and cool, because we can dial that in, which you will learn if you take the next course. But just in general, it's like, unless a person has like Scorpio ruling their fifth, I would say be careful that this isn't addictive. Like when it's gambling as pleasure and for fun, it's like, oh, just go when it's in the fifth, because people can keep their minds of like, oh, I just have an amount that's for fun, But another way to translate that, I'm spending too much time on the concept of gambling, it's risk taking. This is where we can take a risk a little easier without a lot of penalty, is fifth house. Okay, sixth house. Gosh, this is another one where a couple things really important to focus on your sixth house moon transits, those few days. One, it is your state of health. So if there is a time personally for you to do a little cleanse or take certain things out of your diet, or kind of work on your health, it's when the moon is transiting the sixth house. Take charcoal 2 days a month in the sixth house. And it, again, is a way to utilize astrology for maximum benefit, because more will release from your body, especially if it's, a waning moon, which it will be half of the year. So anyways, this is state of health, but it's really important because it's another place where we get a progress report of what our state of health is, because of the moon. Again, you've heard me say it, it's sort of our subconscious, unconscious promptings. We might want to eat the thing that's not so good for us. We want that comfort food. And our body isn't as forgiving during this time. It sort of, we might, it might take us down a little bit more, but it's telling you, it's like, yeah, you're supposed to be detoxing, not toxing at this time. So that health regimens are also good to be started in the first and the sixth. This is daily habit. So again, we want to start a new habit that's healthy. We might choose when the moon is in the sixth house, because again, we don't want to wait, say half the year for the sun to shine light here, because it's only once a year. The moon we get once a month. We get a chance every month to restart. So it's that self-improvement. The other thing that sixth house is, that I know these are all these layers, right? It's like a layered cake, and every it's different flavor going down. Somehow they do all kind of weave together here, but this is the house of employees. If you have employees, it's also your peers, it's fellow employees. So you might have something that comes up with somebody you work with, a work conflict that would show up in the sixth. So again, the moon's there. I'm not going to be reactive. I'm going to take a few deep breaths, and I'm going to wait for the moon to move into the seventh, because I will have more strength when the moon is in the seventh than I do the sixth. So I'm going to say this too. We haven't done all the houses, but I'm just throwing it out there that when the moon is in the sixth house, the eighth house and the 12th house. You want to mark those down as times that you are paying attention. There are places of weakness, and we all have them. So it's good to know that ahead of time, like I said. So again, if we, try to even, like, if we have the capacity to not get reactive, even with, coworkers or people that work for you, if you're in that place of power, maybe wait until the moon moves into a house where it gives you vital strength, emotional body strength, because we are emotional beings, right? And this is what we're looking at. That's what the moon is. We're tracking our monthly emotional health. Isn't that beautiful? And that you can really take this in your hands. You can project. And then if you have other emotional health tools, you integrate the tools into your calendar, your timing. So, okay. What else? Service. This is the house of service. If you want to do volunteer work, do it when the moon is in the 6th. It's more bang for your buck later. It's like it invests, because it is self-improvement. It gives you something when we give to others, without expectation of something coming in return. Animals, pets fall into the 6th house. So you may find that, your dog got sick, ate the weird thing, and the moon is in the 6th and you're freaking out. It'll usually be fine. You just, but that's where it would be. Or I want to get a new pet, or, something like that. When the moon is in the 6th, that's an ideal time to bring that in. Okay. Now we're in the upper territory. And just here's another little piece of information that isn't in the PDF, but I want you to take in, that when the moon is in the houses 1 through 6, which is literally under your personal underground, it's very subjective. It's the most inner work, inner you placement. And for those of you that don't know, what this is literally, because this is your chart here, we're just talking about what each one of those areas talks about or represents. But Earth, we look at it, Earth is in the center. So it's our relationship with that celestial band that has all the constellations going around, that the planets and the moon and the sun all revolve around, going around us, just so you understand that. So this line is the eastern horizon, where the sun rises. It moves to the top. If it's noon, it's at the top. Sunset over here, midnight underneath. So just to give you a little orientation, which I like, because when you can understand that astrology is not, it's actually not that abstract. It's very literal and it's very astronomical. It just helps to make more sense. Okay. So now we come out of the subjective realm and we come into the objective realm. And it makes sense. This is where we're meeting the world, because underneath is like where it's nighttime, and above is where it's light. This is where the sun shines, right? It's where we see other, we're interactive with other, and we can feel a bit of resurrection sometimes in this one too, just like the 12th to the 1st. We feel that the 6th to the 7th as well. So 7th, straight up, one of the big topic houses, that probably the strong houses that are like the 1st, 4th is angular, so it's strong, but really the ones you probably care about most will be like the 1st house, the 7th house, and then we'll talk about the 10th in a little bit. But those are really strong dynamic houses that if you're trying to do something that is putting your energy out there, even though this is under the horizon, it's still you're embodied in yourself. So it still counts. And look at it. It's done. We see a little light right there coming up. So these are your places of power. Okay. Like first and there, ninth house is great. 11th house is great. Third house is okay. But really, first 7, 10, just keep that, take a note on that. So, seventh, partnership, relationship. This is where we connect with others. This is the marriage house. This is where, when we want to have meaningful connection, it's going to be the seventh. We got into a fight with our partner. The moon was in the seventh, and I have Mars there. It's like, wow, okay. Why am I so combative every month? He really bothers me, or she really bothers me. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm going to slow that down. Maybe a lot of that is me. This is where we gather intel. It's also where we can have union if we're wanting to figure out like a date night or going out, and having that connection. Fifth is like light enjoyment, but seventh is intimacy. It's coming in together with a person. So that's why it's your significant other. And again, I've got like, here's open enemies. You're getting the real deep house meetings here. And lawsuits, like if a lawsuit comes up, it's seventh house, which shows you open enemies, right? If you're moving into a lawsuit, they're making themselves known to you. But don't put too much energy into that. Just think of, this is a place we nurture our relationships, is when the moon is transiting the seventh. We might even nurture our relationship with ourselves, if you don't have a person, bring that in. Okay, eighth house. So this is one of those houses I always like, even more than the 12th or the 6th. This is the house that can get us in the most trouble when the moon is in the 8th, because it's karmic conditions. It's like open karma. It's like the karma that, like, the folder is open and we're actively, this is an open case file. And so when the moon is here, we might feel more of that intensity. And of course, it doesn't mean everybody has a strong, every month something is going to happen when the moon is in the 8th. It's just to take note that you don't want to, be super feisty during this time. It can also be when it's like, why is this so hard? Or I will get, messages, oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time right now. And then the next day it's like, I don't know what, I feel better now. It might just be the moon was going through the 8th. And so work on those things. You can work on the things. It's a really good time for, if you did monthly therapy and you really wanted to do deep surgery, it would, like, going once a month when your moon is in the 8th would be like going, every few weeks. Like, you could get more done in that one time than you could, going several times a month. So that's why we do have like depth psychology, transformation. This is also where our debt is and where our taxes, where we pay taxes. I can't believe, oh, you know why? Because this is more of a modern astrology take. So this is the actual house of death, but don't think death, it means somebody's going to die. Obviously, we don't lose somebody once a month, but it is the death of something. It can be the death of a condition. It's the point where things are transforming. It's the place where we go the most in, and where it's so much that we just go, okay, I give, I surrender. Okay, I see my part in something. Or like control issues. That's a big one for 8th. Like, okay, I'll take my hand off the wheel. Or we're really, like, we can be on either side of that dynamic, right? Maybe you are controlled. You feel really controlled by a friend, a maid, a parent, a something. This is where you take the strength of the 8th and you set your boundaries. That's where action is good, if you feel like you're more on that other end of the energy. But this is where it's, where we experience death and rebirth. So we'll just go ahead and say that. 9th house. this is a fun house. This is a great house. Usually if we starting to see a pattern, right? When we have, like kind of an ailing house, the house right after usually feels pretty good. Just like, I'm not feeling good. I feel better now. So another one, I really don't feel good. Wow, I feel so much better. Ninth house is higher perspective. We get that bigger picture view. So when we're in the ninth, this is probably a really powerful time to look at our bigger picture. Like if we suddenly feel this, what's the word? What's another word for spontaneous, where it's like, acting too fast before thinking it out. If it's a big picture, we may want to wait till the moon gets to the ninth, because it will get there. And it's like, it fills everything out so you can see all the pieces. That's the beauty of the ninth house, is that we're not thinking about the little details. We're thinking about the bigger picture. So this is also like long journeys, being abroad. If you're going abroad for a few weeks, try to time that time of your trip that the moon is going to be in your ninth house at some point. It'll be the bet you'll get so much from it, infusing the culture. It's just, again, that bigger picture. This is also a really good time. Like, say you want to make a vision board, or I really need to like check in, like, where am I in my life? I need to check in and see if everything is connected. All my actions are moving towards a common goal. Reset yourself when the moon is in the ninth. This is a really good time for that. Yeah, super conscious mind, because you have more capacity to process bigger concepts when the moon is in the ninth house. This is a big one. That's why it is also the house of higher education. We get the information in the third, but then we understand it and integrate it in the ninth. So this is a really cool little place. What else to conceptual thinking? Yep, we got all that. 10th. So another super positive house is the 10th house. And by the way, 9th is a really good house. Like I was saying, it's just first 7 and 10 are just really strong. Like you're in a stronger place to do things. Okay. Career, straight up career. This is when, okay, I want to make a change. I want to ask for a raise. I want to enhance what I'm doing. I want to post something on social media to inform people of this other thing that I'm doing right now. You would do it when the moon is transiting your 10th house, because here's something else in what's called mundane astrology. Mundane astrology is not natal astrology. It's like the astrology of the world, the astrology of nations, but what the moon represents in mundane is the people. It's the people. So we can borrow that concept, bring it in when it's in the 10th. That's the place that you have the highest visibility, where the people see you. You get that once a month. So this is a really good time to launch something, or just make yourself present. It's one of those astrological misunderstandings that people think the first house is what I show everybody. It's actually like your body. It's what you want to show people, but what people actually see is your 10th house. So when the moon is in the 10th, because look at it, when the sun is in the middle of the sky, we know this, we've all had that experience. Its rays are the strongest if there are no clouds. So this is when we do that kind of work. It's your boss, your superiors, authority figures would fall into the 10th. So moon, that's another reason if you're asking for a raise, when the moon's in the 10th, there's more the person you're working with there, that you are cloaked in lunar energy, that they will be more it will impress your agenda more on that subtle level where they might see it more than other times. Okay. What else would we say? Reputation, contribution to the world. This is where we give, and the ambition. Like if you, again, ambition is big. So I really want to make it big on this, pick when the moon is in the 10th. All right. Or say you do intention setting. You don't have to wait for the moon to be new or full. You could do a monthly intention setting around every time the moon is in your 10th. And I promise you that you will see things change in your career, within so many of those cycles. It'll take a few cycles and then it'll come in. Okay. 11th house. These are our friends. It's our social groups. This is if we want to just like even connect with a friend, let's say, this is friend time. That's why it's also those social groups, organizations. It's collecting yourself with people you see the world the same way, or at least in a certain area of life. This is where we have that agreement already. Now we get to know each other even deeper because we already know, we see the world, or we have a love for, mountain climbing, whatever it is, it could be any social group that this is, where we connect and find like-minded people. So this is really fun. So just like the 5th house, these opposite houses are very social. Okay. Visions, collective endeavors. This is humanity. These are our humanitarian times. So the vision part, this is another, if we're going to vision board, we vision in either the moon in the 9th or the moon in the 11th, because this is when we're planting seeds for what's coming up in the next month. In fact, you could even just play around with that and set intentions full spectrum, because that's a thing. If we're doing, 10th house goals once a month, it's all things that would go with all these words here. With the 11th house, it's full spectrum. It's every area of life before we then go into the 12th house. We could think of the 11th as your seed and the 12th as the soil that you plant the seed. When a seed is in the soil, we can't see it. That's the whole thing that makes the 12th a little bit tricky. Like I, said at the very beginning, the 12th, we're not abandoned. We can feel energetically abandoned, or like are disconnected from ourself, but it's just on we could say spirit level. There's a part of our spirit being that's getting rejuvenated in more spiritual realm. That's why this is the house of dreams. This is where we go to sleep when we have vivid dreams, where our subconscious mind is cleaning itself. This is why we want to be easy with ourselves. If there's one place to be really easy, the most non-committal time of the month is your 12th month, 12th house month. So this is it, and it doesn't mean you're always going to feel disconnected. When you know what it is, it's actually the house where you can have the greatest joy. How many of us actually give ourselves like a couple days a month to just have no commitments, no commitment to other, are more forgiving of ourselves? If things are going to slip through the crack or we create overwhelmment, that would be a self-sabotage part. Is that, we put too much on our plate because we didn't see. It's like, this is where we have to let it go. But that's what this is. And the reason why too, which again, those of you who've heard me speak on this, self-sabotage is usually this is an area where we're supposed to allow sort of our inner self, our inner spirit be in charge, not our ego or our frontal lobe. So, and I know it's imprisonment. What's interesting is the 12th house, it rules prisons, hospitals, and temples. So it's these places that a person goes and their needs, their basic needs are met so they can do deeper inner work. And even though like people usually don't want to go to the hospital, they don't want to go to prison. So we could almost say it's the soul is working to get themselves to that place. So they finally hit that knees on the ground, but you're doing some inner work. And so, do inner work when the moon is transiting your 12th house. Okay. So there that is. And that it's already after 6. Look at that. Once I get going, I can't stop. How do I stop sharing? There it is. So you will get these pieces. I didn't go through each sign, but the houses are the most important part. So you'll get the key of the moon in each sign. So the sign I look at as secondary in meaning to the house. The sign colors the house, but the house is the house. Just like if you have a room, your walls, it's the same room. We could paint them pink, we could paint them white. And so those are the signs. So hopefully you were able to digest that. Please send me questions if you have any questions now. I don't think we have anybody asking anything. But I hope that even if you don't take the course, and that, I guess I should say that too, the course, you don't necessarily have to know a lot about astrology to take the prediction. What I really had the strong download is this generation of people learning astrology. It's so different from any of the generations we've had in modern time, in that people are more introduced to astrology through people talking about it, like the moon it's full moon in this, or Mercury just went retrograde there, or wow, Venus just moved into Leo. That there's more of a connection astrologically connecting to these planets in time. So I do invite you in to kind of experience learning about the planets kind of through the back door, coming in through the back way. But it does help to have, just some basic knowledge. Okay, I see numbers popping up. Megan, hi, Megan. Can you explain what empty houses mean again, please? And Heather, hi. And I'm going to explain both of these. Hi, Shannon, if I'm getting this, the houses are fixed. So does that mean that we all collectively experience the same energy from the moon? Okay, really good. Both of those are such good questions. I'm actually going to tackle the first one or the second one. Sorry, Heather, that no, we do. Well, here's the thing. Collectively, we do experience the houses the same, but we do not experience them all at the same time. We will all collectively experience the coloring of the moon. So the moon in a sign. So when the moon's in Scorpio, we're just going to, or Aries, let's pick Aries. Scorpios get picked on. But when the moon is in Aries, people are more fired up. So every human on the planet, even the plants, it's like the heat can be too much. The sun can be too burning of the plant. Things are too heated. So we experience that. But what area of life you will experience that energy is personal. So everybody in any one time is experiencing the energy in a different area of life. So the same heat, but a different area of life. And also, before I answer Megan's question, the other thing that I should say where the signs are concerned is that, you'll see this. I put it in the writing where we have outward energy when when any planet, but we'll say the moon, when the moon is in fire and air signs, the energy's kind of up and buoyant and out. When the moon goes into earth and water signs, we kind of want to retreat and go in. So think like on an extreme scale, we could go extroversion, introversion, feeling more outward, feeling more inward. And so we find our nature, and that we all kind of can feel energetically, but then the house is going to tell you the uniqueness of you. Now, Megan, the thing that I was saying about an empty house, what's nice is that when the moon or any planet, because any planet can transit, and we're all going to most likely have an empty house or 2 or 3, that's common. And so when the moon, it's sort of a blessing because it's a way to access that house energetically, bring those topics to life, where, we might not have it as a daily, having other planets there that are all like they're working, the planets are working hard in that area of life through your whole life. So it brings the energy up without it being complicated. That's a juicy part of it, that it can move through. And it's like, I can move through this area. I might not have a planet to trigger this area, but now the moon is there. So I can get this done. I can get these areas of my life in order. And also going one step further with that, and I think some of you probably heard me talk about this, that when, even if a planet or a house is empty, and again, this is more complicated, but there's going to be a planet that rules that house. So if we pick Aries, if Aries rules your 7th house, and we see, you'll see it in your chart, Aries is in the 7th. That means I'm going to look at Mars. So the house really isn't empty because we go to wherever Mars is, the ruling planet of Aries. We look at Mars. Where is it in your chart? That's going to, and whatever Mars is doing, whatever sign it's in, whatever house it's in, whatever planets it's interacting with by aspect is going to give us intel about that empty house. So it's like, this is the beauty of astrology. Like we have every sign in our being. There are just some parts that are floated more to the top to be worked with, but we have every sign. We have every planet. So, okay, I think I just saw another one come in here. One more. I have always seen Sagittarius in my 12th house. Using the whole chart, Scorpio is in my 12th house. That seems like a big contrast. It is. It's a big contrast, but it's still there. Hence the debate of whole sign quadrant houses. Probably in quadrant, you have both Sag and Scorpio in your 12th house, would be my guess. So you would still feel both of those. That will be the case, but you can play with it. And like I said, you can see which one works better. There are some, talk about silos of house systems in the deep astrological world. The topic of houses is a big one. And there are, believe me, I think that they're all accurate for whatever technique you're doing. But for me, my home, and then again with timing, because that is what I kind of, that's my main focus as an astrologer is, figuring out good times to do certain things and really finding in time where a person is, like and predicting when we're coming out of it, being able to see when we went in it. And if I didn't use Coke as my house system, I tried it. I went to Coke rehab and I got off Coke for a year, and it just was not nearly as precise for me, and that's me. So other astrologers I know who I have the deepest, most profound respect for use only whole sign, and they may have a different wheelhouse of technique that allows them in. So you play with both. Okay. Any other? Oh, I think there is another one. Oh, perfect. Yay, Megan. Okay. So I think that completes it. And I really push you to really pay attention. That's why I put this in the calendar. So it's not a separate place. I want to integrate. Hopefully y'all have Google Calendar, but I want you to integrate those timings into your daily life, that you go, oh, aha, okay, yes, I saw something happen. Even if you're just tracking the energy of like the signs. So yes, there's that. And I guess I should just one more little thing in the predictions. We're going to go through like those milestones. They're just our milestones in life of that will be the recorded portion of, we have these ages, like midlife crisis is like one of them. Well, that's a transit. Most people know about their Saturn return. We have these certain signposts that when you know a person's an age or you have an age, it's a beautiful collective thing that we see why there's certain, like, people tend to go in certain directions at certain ages. Your first nodal return happens when you're 18. That's when we are like an adult. So we're going to go through that. And then we're going to go through transits, literally. What does it mean? Just even a little bit of the moon, but this is the moon course. I'm hoping like the people who take the class will have already done this. But the sun through the signs and the houses in a chart, every of the inner planets, we're going to have a whole module on inner planets. So that with Venus, Mercury, and Mars as well. And then we have the outer planets transiting and how we look at that and how that interfaces in our chart with, those longer planets, that the themes stick, so we're able to accomplish more in an area of life, or if something is transiting a planet, one of our own planets. So those two things. So that's time, where we layer literal what's happening right now in time onto the natal chart. And then I weave in, this is like my can't live without it technique. We're going to learn what's called progressions. Progressing, and the progressed moon is like my favorite spot. In fact, maybe some of you have heard me say it, where if I were challenged to only look at one thing, like you can only look at one thing and talk to a person about one thing in their chart, I would always pick the progressed moon. Where's the progressed moon? Because it spends about 2.5 years in each sign, each area of life. So we're going to go through the progressed moon. We'll talk about the progressed sun. So it's this it's what a progression is. It's literally your chart, your personal chart, growing and evolving and moving like a bloom. It's opening at its own time. And then what we do after learning progressions, we will then, and I spend two modules on progressions. Then we're going to put the pieces together, what's called a tri-wheel. Anybody who's had a reading with me and seen it visually, you've seen this, because I don't know how other astrologers don't use all three, because you get everything. So then we layer our blueprint, you're progressed, you growing, progressing in time. Where are you? And then we layer time. And I'm telling you, there's like, you can find just about anything, and you can tap into a person. If you're wanting to become an astrologer, this is how you're able to get in right where they are and find them. If you're looking at your own chart, it answers all those questions. And then you find peace. Like, that's the point, that even the most challenging transits or progressions are only challenging when we're fighting against them. When we see what it is, like, I actually have permission to work on this, then we heal it. Once it's healed, and you get the benefit of it, and it can become the strongest part of your chart. And then the last part will be solar returns, which is a chart that we run basically on your birthday. We're going to have so much fun. So it's another chart that you would add in and look at, that you get to survey what's coming up in my year starting on my birthday. It's usually the day of, it can vary because it's when the sun comes back to the place it was when you were born, the same degree and minute. Okay, I think I have one more here. Oh, Shannon, hi. Perfect. Yay. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for being here. So there it is. So everybody, thank you for coming to this, and really please give it a try. Utilize this. This is like the beginning of really being able to see how time has impact on your life, and really start to peel back, what prompts us, and then we're going to build on it if you want to take the rest. So okay, yay. All right, where do we access this calendar? Hi, Scarlett. You are going to get it. We're going to share it with you either tonight or tomorrow. I put it together, and it'll be for 2 months. It covers 2 months of timing. So if you signed up for this, we will email you this, and then I think you just add it into your calendar. It should be pretty easy. Okay, cool. Yay. All right. Well, happy moving on, whether it's evening or day, wherever you are. I had people in the Southern Hemisphere sign up too. So happy beginning of day or happy closing up your day. And hey, happy astroing.